Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. And a while ago I actually showed a couple of things that I had, like my old planner stack, and one of them I think in another video showed my journal stack or something, and then this one was included. This is a Hobonichi cousin that I got earlier this year, and I'm almost in 2025 in my mind. I don't know, because we still have several months to go, but for some reason, because I have my planner stack for 2025 ready, I'm already in next year, but we're not there yet. Anyway, this is the cousin where I was doing some stories, and I have these little cubes with pictures on it. They're called Rory story cubes, and I rolled a bunch of them for a couple of different pages, and then the idea was I would pick 5 dice each time and then make a story out of the 5 images that I got. I'm just going to go over to the section where I actually have these words. Like over here, day 1 I rolled bridge, stars, stethoscope, dinosaur skull, and rainbow. And then I take these words and I write a little story that is 1 page long, because this is a cousin, so you have 1 page per day. And that is what I have over on the other end. So when I showed you guys that, I said, after a while of having written a few, I'll make a video and read them out to you. I think I've already read this one, but what I was planning on doing today is just read out all the ones that I have written so far. There aren't too many of them. The main challenge is going to be actually reading them aloud without stuttering like crazy. I have currently, it looks like 14. That's quite a few, actually, more than I thought, but they're very short stories. So I will read you the words and then I'll read what I wrote, and we're just gonna go and read 14 of them. Hope you enjoyed that. It's also kind of a prelude to November that's coming up, because in November, in case you didn't know, every November it's NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month. And it's not national anymore. Anybody over the world can join in, but I do that every year, and so I'm also kind of like gearing up my writing brain, so to speak, for November, so that I can go ahead and write a bunch in November. Has nothing to do with what I've written here, but just kind of like get the gears turning. But if you guys want to see weekly updates on my NaNoWriMo progress, I can also do that during November. So we'll have to see what we can do then. Let me know in the comments what you think, if you want to hear my progress every week in November. But first, let's take a look at these stories. So, the first story, I rolled dinosaur bones, stethoscope, bridge, rainbow, and stars. And I made out of that, Dr. Crookneck was a troll physician. He was the best troll physician he knew. He was also the only troll physician he knew, but that was beside the point. A rabbit had come to him, all confused. He had been digging a new burrow when they had come across some bones. Worried that the area might be infested with dangerous beasts, they had come to Dr. Crookneck for help. The good doctor quickly assured the scared animal that the bones belonged to a dinosaur, creatures whom once lived here, but now simply didn't anymore. When the rabbit pressed on about how that seemed impossible, large creatures simply disappearing, Dr. Crookneck got impatient and told the curious rabbit that the dinosaurs had simply crossed the Rainbow Bridge into the outer space. Well, there's no D there, but you get the picture. Then I drew a little picture over here on the left with Dr. Crookneck on the bridge. No rabbit here, but there is like a rainbow over here. So he just looked up, saw the rainbow, was like, yeah, they crossed the Rainbow Bridge, okay. But I only did that with this one because, of course, January, the first of the month, has an empty page on the cousin. Every month has an empty page at the start, so I had some space to draw here. The rest of them is just text, so we're going to move on to the second, where I got abacus, sheep, coughing, hang from tree, shaking box, a scary tentacle door, and I wrote, one day a sheep heard coughing coming from a nearby tree. As they approached, they saw a man hanging off a branch with one arm while clutching a small box with the other. When they saw the sheep with its fluffy wool, their eyes lit up. Swinging themselves back and forth, they finally released the branch, landing right on top of the poor sheep. The box was sent rolling, but the man didn't spare it a second glance. As soon as he got up, he ran away, leaving the bewildered sheep behind. The sheep turned to look at the box, the lid of which had opened slightly. Pushing it back all the way revealed a small abacus. Wondering what to do with it, the sheep played with some of the beads. This was a mistake. The trunk of the tree suddenly glowed, revealing a scary door that opened itself. Tentacles burst forth, speeding along the ground, searching for something. The sheep heard a distant yelp, then saw one tentacle pulling the man back to the tree, placing him on the same branch as before. That's the second. The third, I had tiara, scared person, small tall person, tower/office, kicking. And I wrote, while on his first smoke break of the day, Fred took a drag and stared blankly at the town skyline, having no particular interest in the buildings within view. Just as he was wondering how some of these large neon signs were made, he heard a high-pitched scream near his feet. Glancing down, he saw a very small person sporting a tiny crown, looking upset right next to the smoldering cigarette butt he'd just discarded. Ignoring the fact that this was the first he'd seen any tiny people on the roof before, he was dismayed to find the miniature royal kicking inside of his left shoe. "Hey, stop that," he grumbled at the minuscule man. They shook their fist at Fred before continuing their pointless assault. Checking his watch, he noticed he was late for his next meeting. "You want to kick? Say hello to the folks below," he said before going on his way. So in other words, he kind of kicked the small person off the building. So that wasn't a very nice thing, but he had to go to his next meeting, I guess. Anyway, number 4, we had camera, tree, binoculars, band-aid, person crying. And I wrote, private investigator Eddie was on the job. There had been mysterious things happening in the forest, and Eddie had been brought in to solve the case. He had been staked out in a tree hut for a few weeks now, carefully scanning the forest through the trees with his special binoculars. They had been given to him as a birthday gift by his uncle, who had served in the Navy and had retired, taking his trusty binoculars with him. It came with some fancy tricks up its sleeve, like, well, that was actually classified, so Eddie figured he shouldn't go into that. In any case, he might not have time to discuss it anyway, as the silence in the forest was suddenly broken by a faint, distant crying sound. Spinning on his heel, Eddie swung his binoculars in the direction of the sound, snapping a few photos with his camera for good measure. Spotting an upset child at the base of a tree, he hurried over, found the child to have it cut under a knee. There's supposed to be an "and" in there somewhere. Band-aid deployed. Another job well done. Time to head home for the day. The real culprit would have to wait until tomorrow to be caught. And I also ran out of space. Day 5. Light bulb, rain cloud, victorious warrior, frog, burning notes. The rain cloud, emptying itself overhead, made small streams of water form on his smooth skin. Inhaling deeply, the frog filled that special pouch in his throat, then let it go, generating a deep reverberating croak that bounced around the area. It had all begun that day. The note, slipped to him at the forest meeting, had left a mark in his soul. True, it wasn't a physical gash or scar like those in the pile of bodies beneath him, but it stung all the same. The first one to feel his wrath was the badger. They say don't kill the messenger, but he knew that old badger had something to do with the betrayal. There was no way the gossip monger hadn't read the note before handing it off to the frog. As the note burned, the badger had a light bulb go off in the mind that perhaps it was time to leave. Too late. The rest had been easier, as most of them were considerably slower to catch on. Now that it was done, he could breathe a sigh of relief. Nobody would ever learn his middle name. Dramatic. Alright, that's number 5. Number 6, the words are astronaut, UFO attack, heartbeat, round maze, and bouncing ball. Checking their radar for the 10th time that minute, the astronaut gripped his chair's armrest while using the other hand to enter new commands into his control pad. The UFO was still there, still giving chase, as it had been for at least an hour. His shuttle was starting to run low on fuel, so he needed to get there quick. Half an hour ago, an idea had come to him to fly to this specific destination. He decided not to go there directly, suspecting that his assailant would see through his plan right away. Now his goal was coming into view. An artificial set of mining canyons on the dark side of the moon. Heart beating in his throat, he pushed the handle forward and down, making his light and maneuverable shuttle down into the dark maze. I guess the "go" didn't go in there, but okay, that's fine. Sometimes I write so quickly that words just drop out. Anyway, so it's in a dark maze. The UFO, now intent on catching him, couldn't quite make the cut, bouncing off the walls like an angry rubber ball. Finally, he heard the expected explosion behind him. Time for lunch, he thought. Alright, so this is a daily occurrence apparently. Nothing unusual before lunch. Day 7. Ladder, sunflower, crocodile in water, tent/circus, thermometer. Blinking angrily, the crocodile slowly floated down the lazy river. The summer heat had initially pleased him. He wasn't a big fan of fall or spring, and he absolutely hated winter. That meant he was happiest in the summer. and longing for its return once it ended. This year, however, the sun was just too darn hot. There wasn't much you could do about it, as the sun was way up in the sky while he was way down here in the lowest part of the valley. Or was there? Some annoying music that had at first been playing at a distance had grown louder. He found that it came from a large, colorful tent that sat on the river bank. People were milling around it, but he ignored them. What he really wanted was the sun, sitting right on top of the tent. Locating and grabbing a ladder that sat nearby, he clambered up and chomped down on a flower. Still overheating and now disappointed, he let himself slip down and plop back into the river, back to moping in the heat. So here he had some sunstroke or heat stroke, and he thought that the sunflower sitting on top of a circus tent was the sun, and he thought he could just quickly grab it and then reduce the heat, but apparently that was not the case. Too bad, so sad. Alright, day 8. The words are chess piece, open chest, dark stairway, open book, victorious warrior. At last the battles were fought, leaving only one winner, or rather one team, that stood at the top of the dark stairway. Their leader produced a book from pouch he'd kept slung across his back. Opening it, he entered the code that the wise man had circled among the lines of numbers and letters strewn across the page. The lights above the steps went on one by one, lighting 10 steps each time. The group followed the light, watching carefully for missing steps or tripwires. The reasons previous excursions down the stairs had failed. Finally, the basement floor came into view, revealing their goal, a simple plain wooden box on a stone pedestal. Checking the lid carefully, their trap and explosives expert indicated that it was all clear. The creak of the old hinges indicated that it had been a long time since the lid had moved. Inside, they found their prize, the long sought-after missing piece of the Emperor's beloved chess game, checkmate. Day 9. The words are fountain, backpack, breaking bar, hooded person, hypnotized. By the fountain sat a man who looked like he had some money. The hooded figure behind the tree eyed the backpack that sat beside the man's legs as they calmly read a book in the midday sun. There was bound to be something good in there. Some money, maybe. At the very least, some things he could sell. He needed the money. There were only 5 weeks left for him to repay the debt he held with the big boss. He didn't make the big boss wait for his money. Sneaking up to the unsuspecting individual, he revealed the stick he kept hidden under his hood until then. Just as he was about to let it land on the man's head, he found the stick simply breaking in his hand. Confused, he stared at the offending wooden object before looking back and becoming awestruck by the man's eyes. "Your debt has been forgiven," was all he heard before falling fast asleep. I don't really know. I just wrote it. Don't ask me. At number 10, the words were arrow, measles, shark, bandit, laughing uncontrollably. The bandit sighed as he ran the salty damp rag across his forehead. He'd been in the little boat for a while now, since last night to be exact. They had paid him to rob the captain of the ship that had lay a ways off the coast. The mayor of the town had a personal gripe with the captain. He had gotten himself a small dinghy and rowed over under the cover of darkness, but had found no way on board as the deck was full of sailors at all hours of the night. Disappointed, he had set back out toward the coast, but he wasn't alone. A shark had been circling his boat, occasionally nudging it. When the bandit had stolen the boat, he hadn't noticed the chum bucket much. Sure, the boat had smelled, but everything did at the harbor. It wasn't until now that he realized his mistake. The shark followed still, even after the bucket had been cast overboard. The only thing he could hope for now was that the arrow, which he had shot at the shark, carried some of the fluid of his measles to the beast. The thought of a shark covered in red, itchy spots made him laugh so much he ran out of breath and energy, and so he fell asleep. Hopefully the ill shark would be gone by morning. So he didn't learn he had measles until much later. Maybe he didn't know that before he got on the boat. I don't really know. Next, number 11. The words are zombie apocalypse, blocking something, footprint, suspicious, and spiraling. The door was locked, but that wasn't enough. The bookcase, filled with everything he could find that was both heavy and would fit, had to be moved in front of it, just to be sure. The footprints in the snow didn't lie. They were still out there. The winter's white blanket proved that the cold did not slow down and stop the zombies. What he did notice was that more and more of them were wearing thicker clothing, which was a surprise. Zombies didn't care what they wore or if they wore anything at all, so how were so many of them now equipped with scarves and hats? Ever since that spiral had appeared on TV, They had been acting very strange. Whatever the case may be, he knew he would have to venture outside soon, as his food was running out. He would wear his hat and scarf to blend in. Was that what everyone else was doing? So this person is so paranoid that they think everybody outside is a zombie. Also, I noticed that the word in is missing. There's more words missing, but this one annoys me because to blend is not a sentence. So there you go, to blend in. And he thinks everybody's a zombie out there, but eventually he's going to have to go outside and grab some food. And maybe even then he won't be convinced that the people out there aren't all zombies, but who knows. That's number 11. Let's go to number 12. The words are person on stretcher, heartbeat, cat, robot, and apple. He jolted awake and found his vision had been blocked by something white. Bringing his hand up to push at it, he found the thing to be a single cotton sheet, which he moved out of the way. Now that he could see, he found himself to be in an abandoned building of sorts. The grey concrete walls were crumbling around gaps, which he assumed used to be filled by windows and their frames. Green vines were crawling in from outside. He got off what turned out to be a stretcher and walked around a bit. The view was nice from the holes in the wall. Other large overgrown structures dotted the landscape. He saw small cooking fires with groups of people in several different places. A cat jumped up on the edge and gave him a look before dropping itself on the floor below gracefully. It led him to noticing an apple tree bearing fruit. He considered picking some until he remembered that robots can't digest food. So it wasn't a person all along. Ooh, mysterious. Alright. Number 13, the words are treasure map, jellyfish, elephant, ladder, and chameleon. And I wrote, a jellyfish floated along a shallow river, soggy map in tow. They had been told by an elephant that they were indeed headed down the right arm of the river. He had asked them when they were confused about his map. The water had made the paper weak, and a sharp pebble had torn a gash right where the river branched off, making it difficult to see what the right path was. Even though he hadn't seen the large trees he was expecting, the elephant seemed adamant. He spotted a ladder up ahead near a large tree that had a big red X painted on the trunk. The X looked similar to the one on his map. Excited, the jellyfish pulled himself out of the water, expecting to find treasure. Instead, he found a chameleon with a large cake who greeted him enthusiastically. Confused, the jellyfish asked the chameleon what was going on. "You found the treasure, it's my birthday," he told him. Behind him, the jellyfish spotted a fake trunk as he had cake. The last bit's a little difficult to read because I ran out of space, but I think that's what it says. So I think the idea behind this was that the elephant and the chameleon were kind of in cahoots and like directing them towards the chameleon's birthday party because they wanted party guests or something, while the map itself may have led to some other place because I don't think they went to the trouble of making a fake treasure map just to get people to go to a birthday party, but I don't know. Maybe they did, I don't know. But either way, he's having cake, so he should be happy at the very least that he's getting something. So the last one, the words are skull, counting money, DNA, knock on door, and guiding someone. And I wrote, the skull sat quietly on a stack of books as though it was overseeing the counting of the money. The man at the table had never seen so many bills in one place before in his life, and he had to keep reminding himself that they weren't just random pieces of paper that were passing through his hands. Who knew that scientists were not only that easily fooled, but also apparently loaded? Must be all that grant money, he supposed. A knock on the door pulled him out of his musings. Kind of irritated, he got up to answer. The two men at the door did not fill him with a lot of hope with their expensive suits. They even smelled like they were about to ruin his day. A few minutes later, when all the money had been accounted for, they let him out to their black SUV. Turned out crime did pay, but it was a very temporary loan. So that was number 14 and the last one that I wrote. But as you can see, there's still plenty of space here in the cousin left. So this is probably going to take me several years because I don't tend to be in a writing mood very often. But it'll be here when I'm ready to go, which is always nice about these books because even though I am no longer on the 15th of January 2024, that has long passed, I can still use this paper to continue to write stories. So that is that. Once again, let me know if you want to get updates for my NaNoWriMo progress for me to let you know what's going on with that. I'll probably start by making a video on the plot that I had in mind because that's going to take some explaining. But that was all the stories. I'm going to have to continue with number 15 where the words are cracked egg, rainbow, Skull and Bones, Pointing Arrow, and music on headphones. So the next time that I want to write a story, that's what I'm going to be working on, which might be a nice little break from my NaNoWriMo stuff. In any case, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope I didn't stutter too much. Well, I should have edited everything out if I did. And I hope to see you in another video. Thanks for watching and bye-bye for now.